Guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Franchise Advisory Board, where we bring in experts from around the franchise community to give you exceptional advice in ways that you can help scale a lasting and thriving franchise brand. Now, today I'm excited because if you don't know, I've got Ari O'Brien with me. And she's a load of fun. She's been in the industry for quite a while. She's a top salesperson before she got into franchising at US Foods. Like, Ari's just like a really fascinating and talented human. Her and her husband, Jason, they founded Red Rock Franchise Development, which is the most trusted partner in franchise development. And they emphasize that word. I'm going to brag on them a little bit so you know I wanted Ari to come join me today. And then we're going to jump right into some of our topics today about the partnership in franchise brokers and how to treat them like a relationship, not like a channel or like just another lead source and why candidate experience matters. We're also going to talk a little bit today about the like getting the right candidates in the ecosystem first. But let me tell you about Ari and why she's here, guys. So she not only did they found Red Rock Franchise Development, but this they work a little bit differently. They don't even call themselves an FSO, which I found kind of interesting. Because everybody else like, oh yeah, they're an FSO, but the reason they don't is because they focus so deeply on making sure you get the right candidates through the door. It's not just about sales velocity; it's about sales quality and awarding franchises to the right people with them. And they have deep relationships with brokers. And so as you're looking at ways that you might be able to scale your franchise by deepening your relationship with franchise broker networks. I know there's a lot in flux right now in that area. This is a group that specializes in that. And I can assure you, I go to a lot of those broker conferences and they always have a crowd of brokers around them who like working with them. So just want to give you some kudos because I see you hustling at the shows, Ari.
We do our best. We do our best. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think they're great. But
They are.
three things you don't know about Ari, and then we're going to let her tell you guys about herself. They're based in Vegas. So next time you're going to go to IFA early, if you need somebody to help you hunt a property for an event, you know who to call. Uh,
Uh,
she's married. She's got four kids. And then her and Jason own some property near Cedar City in Utah. They're not in the area that just got burned. So, but they go up there four-wheeling with the kids quite a bit up at Duck Creek Village is what it's called, isn't it, Ari?
yep. Duck Creek Village. Yep.
Beautiful
Up
spot.
in
So
beautiful Utah. Yep.
yeah. So Ari, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us about Red Rock franchise development, and then we'll jump right into the topic today.
Yeah. We don't live on the strip, by the way. That's like a misconception. When you live in Vegas, everybody thinks you live in a casino. Nope. We have a home and our kids go to school. It's like, but yeah, I mean, we love franchising. That is something that Jason and I are just so passionate about. We got into the industry probably 12 or 13 years ago. Didn't know a lot about it and kind of just dove in first, 2 feet, just diving in and getting integrated. And it's changed and come so far in the last like 10, 12 years. It's come full circle for us and it's given us so many amazing opportunities. We've got to do so many things and meet so many dynamic people. And as you mentioned, Dave, Red Rock Franchise Development, that's our baby. So thank you so much for having me today and letting me talk about something that I'm so passionate about. And, our business is, other than our kids, like I said, it's something that we're so just we hang our hats on, right? And we want to do it right. And we have a lot of integrity when it comes to making sure that the right kind of steps are being taken in every aspect. That's a huge thing for us.
Yeah, well, and let's dive into that because so part of
Yeah.
that is acknowledging and then making sure processes are wrapped around
Yeah.
building franchise development into an ecosystem that finds the right franchise owners, not
Yep.
just awards franchises willy-nilly. Because I mean, we all have seen the Chernobyl effect of some of the folks that carry a similar label to you guys in the industry that have gone out and just scorched earth, blasted franchise units out, and then bankrupted franchises, right? That is 100% wrong. It's unethical. Nobody appreciates it. And the bad thing about that is it gives a bad rap to a lot of the other folks that do it right, like you guys in the industry. So tell us a
Yep.
little bit about like this philosophy of like finding the right franchise candidate. It feels
Yep.
like it's in conflict with the franchise brand's goals to add more units. How do you guys like approach that with franchise owners, like not franchise owners, but the brands when you're
Yeah.
consulting with them early on, so you can help them shift their mindset away from units to the right units that are going to help
Yeah.
you get royalty independent a lot faster.
Yeah, and that's the biggest reason why, and you said it right out of the gate, is why we're an FDO and not an FSO. We're not a sales organization.
Mhm.
We are a franchise development organization. So we spend time helping our brands develop a process and, working either through organic leads or through broker networks on establishing who is the right candidate for this brand, right? And not just saying, let's just throw it and stick it and see if it, stays kind of philosophy. So we really spend time, you know, making sure that the brand has a good vetted process that everybody can follow. And that's something that we establish from day one. So if we're, talking to a brand and, they're looking at our services as an option for their development, we want to make sure it's the right fit for us. Like it's a big culture thing for us.
Mhm.
So, what Jason and myself, and then Michelle, who is also, an integral part of our team, what we look at is, can we, the three of us, can we go to market with this brand? And do we feel confident that we can sell it and put the right folks kind of in place in order to really help that brand scale correctly, right? And so kind of asking those pre-qualifying questions, how many locations are you looking to add? What does it look like for you geographically? All those kind of aspects have to be in place for us in order for us to move forward. And in reality, not everybody is the right fit for us and vice versa. So we really try to make sure that we have those conversations early on to make sure that everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've seen many examples where the brands and their FDO, FSO are not aligned and one way or
Yeah,
another, and it creates total chaos. What are
it
red
does.
flags for you guys? I mean, I'm sure in that process is you're kind of interviewing and dating each other a little bit to figure out if you want to get more
Yeah.
serious in this FDO relationship. What are some of the things that you guys, like you, Jason, Michelle, will be like, all right, I'm out. Like this is not the right
Yeah.
type of relationship. What are those red flags for you?
It's funny if you ever come to our in-person event, which I know I invited you, and we
I
do
know.
expect you to attend one of these days.
I'll
But
be
we
there.
do have what we call our in-person reunion here in Vegas every year. It's where we collaborate. We get brokers, we get brands, we get everybody that loves franchising together for just a lot of fun, training, development. If you take all of our brands and kind of line them up together, you will see a really similar kind of outlook on franchising and business. Like everybody has their own personality, but they all like vibe together. Like they just kind of have that, you know, they're all part of that Red Rock umbrella. And so
Mhm.
you can kind of see that. So if we talk to somebody and we feel like they're not a good match with the other brands, that's a red flag for us. If they are truly just focused on, yeah, we just want to bring on as many people as we can, and we don't really care what type of candidate they are, or I always talk about with the brokers is if somebody has a couple 100,000 in a pulse, like that's not a qualifying, kind of,
Yeah.
that doesn't qualify somebody to be a good business owner. And so some of the things that, I always ask a candidate is, what when you wake up in the morning, what is your checklist in terms of business that matches everything that you want. Like when you wake up in the morning excited, like when I get up in the morning, and I know you're the same because we've had conversations, is I'm excited. I want to talk about franchising. So I'm checking the boxes every single day. Yeah, there are days where I'm like, oh man. But if they don't share that similar
Mhm.
like philosophy and outlook on business and all the things, and those are kind of some of the things that we just are like, yeah, and their FDD has to be, not to get too much into like the legal aspect, but their FDD has to be like tightened up and it has to be correct and it has to be issued by a franchise attorney. So we always review that before we make a decision.
Yeah. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to go into that just for a second because a lot of younger brands listen, and some of them have been through, let's just call it like the shady lane of franchise onboarding into the industry, where somebody had a template and threw it together
Yep.
and maybe forgot to find and replace all of the keywords and like so FDDs and ops manuals are kind of like kind of hack jobs and weren't actually done by a true attorney, which you can file it if you want without a real
Yep.
attorney, but it's just risky. Like, can you maybe share why that's so important to you? Like, why does a franchise, why does their franchise, their FDD franchise agreement need to be super tight? And maybe highlight a couple of areas where often you see big gaps that would make you say, I'm out.
Well, I always think, especially if you have a brand that doesn't have enough financial data, and you're sharing like item 19 numbers, that can be a little concerning, because there's just not enough financial data. So we always like to kind of say, where did these numbers come from? When people are comparing a corporate location to what they might do in their area, if the corporate location or the corporate numbers are built off of a territory that is never going to be something that they offer, like it's not an apples to apples comparison, like, oh, well, we've been in business for 25 years and this is the equivalent of 10 territories. That's not a really great financial, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not, the math's not mathin', so it's
yeah.
like you got
Well,
to figure out.
so
Yeah.
I got to share this. There's a brand that I was chatting with their local. They did provided some service, and while I was talking to them and scheduling them to come over, like, yeah, we're thinking about franchising. I was like, that's kind of ironic. He's like, why? I was like, well, I just happen to coach like hundreds of franchise brands. Like, they're my clients.
Yeah.
He's like,
Right.
what? So, but then he was telling me kind of their strategy. I'm like, well, you can't do that. It's like, what do you mean I can't do it? It's like, you can't start to build a franchise based upon your corporate office location that is the equivalent of about five territories that what you're
Right.
describing as a territory. I said, if you do that, your financial model is misleading. Not illegal, but misleading, and that's wrong. I said, unless you're going to make everybody's territory as big as this, you're going to have to actually shave that down and then
Yep.
operate out of that territory. And then your financials are actually viable. But if and then you also prove if it's not viable, making it that small, you got to make it viable. So either make your territory bigger or fix the model. And they're like, wow. And I was like, doesn't have, like, everybody knows this. But apparently not, Ari, because I run into a lot of people like that, where a
So
corporate
common.
office is like five territories and they're acting like it's one in the FDD and it's super misleading.
Yeah. It's the whole state of Utah, which, covers like a geographic, I mean, oh yeah, well, we operate and we go to Nevada too. And yeah, the numbers are all of those. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's common. Yeah. So, and I think people just, if they're not diving in. And so when we always look to see, who, first of all, who wrote this FDD and are they credible? Who put
Yeah.
this together? And was there a correct audit done by a CPA? Like, is everything kind of listed out? What does that item 6 look like? What does that item 7 look like? Is it, all the different things, like really diving into it and kind of trying to figure out like, what does that financial overview look like from an item 19 perspective? And like what you just said, Dave,
Mhm.
is it really kind of sharing the numbers in a true form to where somebody can kind of put together that pro forma and decide if it's a business that they see viable. So
Yeah.
yeah, lots of kind of checks and balances with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but these are
another
good things.
animal.
The reason I
Yeah.
want to go into that, Ari, is because there are a lot of brands that don't think about that. Like, so what's common sense to you and me isn't common
Yep.
sense to everyone. And so just take note, guys, that if you have wildly successful corporate office, but your franchisees are struggling, you need to do some like deep investigation into like what is the difference between those two. And it's not just the operator. Sometimes it's you got Philadelphia as your corporate office, and then you've got the suburb of like South Charleston as the territory. Like this is a problem, and the model is
Right.
not viable with its current structure. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And
Yeah.
let's shift gears a little, Ari, because one thing I know you guys really pay a lot of attention to, you've already mentioned it once, is the candidate experience. And every interaction from first inquiry to discovery day, that is critical to A, making sure the right person gets through the door at the end of the day and gets awarded a franchise, but B, make sure that the franchisor doesn't bungle it and lose the right person. So talk to me a little bit about like one, why did you guys decide that was going to be one of your focus areas? And then let's talk about like how does a brand do this properly?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a kind of a candidate perspective, like, and it goes back to like treat others the way you want to be treated, and so, we try to like that salesy, like overbearing kind of experience. We really don't do that. And that's something that the brands know. And, you know, we stay very connected to the candidate the entire time. And I think that's a big reason why so many brokers enjoy working with us. Our communication is spot on in terms of, just making sure that everybody is in the loop. And we realize that particular like an opportunity, a franchise opportunity, business ownership isn't like the right fit for everybody.
Hmm.
So we try to be considerate of that. Not everybody's going to buy, right? And so we know that. And we want to make sure that whether the candidate moves forward with us or not, we give them the same type of respect and time that we would. So, that is one of the things that we do as a development organization is we hold that candidate's hand through the entire process, all the way up until they're ready to either take the leap or pause or say, at this point, this isn't the right opportunity for me. And so that's such a huge focus for us and something that we really kind of we're really proud of because again, like you said early on, not all organizations are taking that approach. And so that's why that was something that Jason and I had decided early on that was the way that we wanted to go to market. And that's the reputation that we have built. And we worked really hard to get to that point. So
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. It's funny because there are a couple of schools of thought in the industry as I work with tons of brands and hundreds of brokers and different FSOs. Like I find it interesting. There's still this like old watch that is I call it the field of dreams approach.
yep,
Where like, well, we've got the brand. If I built it, they will come, and they
yep.
don't follow up on their leads. Like if they don't show up to their meeting, they're cooked. And they strong arm people into like big commitment. Like it feels really like 1988, car salesman kind of moves.
I was gonna actually say that, but I was like, I didn't want to offend anybody. But yes, it's very car salesman like. Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, let me go talk to my manager and see what I can do on that
Yep.
percent. It's bull crap, but and I've consulted and coached sales orgs in probably like 12 industries now. It's still
Yep.
here. Like, there are some things that I'm like, why is that still a thing in franchising and nowhere else in the world? But what you said was the opposite of that. You said you don't take a strong-handed approach. Like, what impact has that had on your reputation with both the brands and the brokers
I
to
mean,
do that?
I think it's given us a good reputation. I mean, we always tell candidates, we'll work as fast or as slow as you want us to. So we move at a pace that's comfortable for them. Not everybody wants to get through the process in 3 or 4 months, but we do give realistic expectations, right? You still have to show up for meetings, you still
Mhm.
have to respond. There's still an expectation on both sides where they can't just, drag their feet for months and months and not, they have to come to the table with something as well. But we're not going to push somebody into an opportunity that they're not ready for, and we're not going to oversell a territory just to get a franchise fee. Like, that's not how we operate. And so, there are people that want to sign and pay in 14 days. Like, they know it's the right opportunity.
Mhm.
That's the decision that they've made. And then there's also going to be people that are going to want to draw something out for a year because they want to make sure it's the right kind of fit for them. And that's reality. And that's why we always say not every candidate is going to be the same. So you have to be flexible in your process, so setting those expectations, I think, right out of the gate. And that's, something that we talk to brokers about all the time is, if you go to market with a service, you can't structure every one of those conversations the same. You have to be able to pivot and have some flexibility in what you're doing because in all honesty, that's what being a human is all about, right? So
Yeah.
kind of just putting that human element back. I mean, being a true kind of partner as not just selling, like this is we build relationships with these candidates. Like they're sending pictures from their vacation. They're sending, pictures of their kids. Like they really are trusting you. And this isn't a, overnight decision. This is a large amount of money and this is a life-changing experience for people, right? So
Yeah.
how often are you, I always like compare it to like real estate, even though it's different, but like how if you were looking for a home and you were out with a realtor, are you going to buy something like that day that you see it? No, you want to see what else is there. Like unless you've been having your eye on something, and that is the case. People look for brands for years, years and years. They look for the right fit.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they find it and everything kind of matches up, it just flows really nicely and it all kind of matches, but you can't force somebody into something that they're just not emotionally or financially ready to do. So, I know how I would feel, and so I try to take that emotion and just, make sure that I'm respectful of people. So,
Yeah. No, I'm glad you take that approach. I'm guessing some of the brands you talk to are not down with that. They're like, no, let's close them, close them.
um, maybe. I mean, I don't think we attract that type of brand, and so for us, I think we just make it known that, that's not how we do business.
Good.
So,
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you guys because it's hard. Because
yeah,
sometimes you want to have more
it is
clients, like you want to help, but
for sure.
at what expense? I tell people it's not worth my soul for that, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
do it. There are brands that I've worked with that we found out there were things going on, and we've been like, hey, appreciate that you guys want to trust us with your money, but we don't want it because
yeah,
I don't want to automate and create at scale this problem that I can see you're creating in the industry. So
yeah.
anyway, that's
Hard conversation. Yeah, it is.
hard pass. I think the same. We probably attract people that know they want to work with people with integrity more than just someone who's going to help them make a few extra bucks. Or, sometimes both, and we have to weed them out.
100%. And I think that, when you follow those practices, you know, you start gaining momentum and traction just because there's just more of a kind of awareness, right? More of an awareness of the brand, of the offering, and you start like driving sales through different channels because there's other things going on, right? It's not just there's multiple kind of things going on instead of just that one, kind of tunnel vision approach where it's just sell, 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 sell. There's other things kind of going on and you just kind of you get that notoriety and you get that recognition and people want to be part of that. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's actually, I want to shift gears now into broker
yeah,
relationships because if what you're
yeah,
saying is perfectly tied into that,
yeah,
which is that broker relationships there's got to be a shift in the industry toward broker relationships being a strategy,
yeah,
not just a lead source. And these are your words, not mine. So maybe would you help me qualify that? Like, why do you feel that way about the broker relationship channel when so many brands kind of objectify brokers and just say, yeah,
yeah.
it's a lead channel. Sure, do territory checks and we'll take care of it. And we'll do a dinner every now and then, but they really treat them like they're just another digital channel. Tell me about your background there and why you decided to think that way.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of strong broker relationships and we're always looking to grow that kind of aspect of our business. Broker relationships are really important to us. They're as important to us as our franchisor relationships. We're that liaison that kind of connects the two. And that's why when we hear from a brand that's like, we just don't know how to work with brokers, like that's our skill set because we have so many trusted relationships that we've built over the last, 5, 8, 10 years, even a year, right? So, we focus on those relationships because they do mean a lot to us. And
Mhm.
They encompass a group that we created as kind of a spin-off of Red Rock Franchise Development called Franchise Fanatics. And it's a group of consultants that want to come together and collaborate and learn and grow. Being a consultant, and I know because I was one, that's where Jason and I started, is it can be a lonely kind of spot. You're working from home, you're not like in front of people all the time. And so, if you run into a problem or if you run into an obstacle or you have a best practice or a success story, who are you going to tell other than the people living in your house, right? So, when you can collaborate and, teach and learn from other people that are doing the same thing as you are, like it's so impactful. And like we don't look, I feel like the group that we've created and the fanatics that are part of our, like, I guess I'll call it ecosystem,
Mhm.
it's not like a competitive. I feel like when I entered into like franchise brokering, I feel like maybe it was looked at as like a competitive, ooh, we don't want to share our secrets. Let's
Yeah.
keep them. But that's not the case anymore. That's not the philosophy that most brokers share. Like they want to get in front of each other and they want to learn from each other and they want to have that kind of, Jason calls it a no look pass, like where you already know, like what's important for us, especially with brokers, is we want them to know the way that we work so that when they talk to their candidates they can say, well, when we connect you with the Red Rock team, they're going to do this to get you all the information so you can do your due diligence, right? They already know what we're going to do because they know us, they've worked with us, and they kind of have that. So we love growing the broker connections that we have. We love collaborating. That's why we do our in-person reunion so that we can bring all of the brokers together in one spot. And it's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, no, I'm saying it's awesome, but I've heard from others that it's awesome. So, that does make us unique, right? Because we do depend on the broker community for so much. And they are, like you said, they're spending their dollars to drive leads. And I guess I'll kind of leave you with this. Um, they when they spend the time and the money and they're a true coach to these candidates, there is a difference in the process and the type of candidates that we're leveraging. So that's so important to us, is that they do become, that partner, and we all kind of collaborate and
Mhm.
figure out, what type of candidates are we looking for this specific brand. Let's go to market. Let's do it together. Let's grow it.
That's a good point. There's a different type of a bond. There are the brokers that are the stab 'em, slab 'em. Like I got digital leads coming in. I'm just like going to do a territory check for every single one before I even have my first qualification call.
Right?
That's one end of the spectrum to the guys who are like, these guys, they've had picnics together and they know their kids have played football together and now they're bringing them to a brand and they're fully baked and ready. Like there's a whole spectrum, right? But the
Right.
ones that you describe are the ones I find that are more passionate about what they do. They tend to bring better
Yeah,
candidates forward. These are the brokers that all the franchise brands wish they had relationships with, but they
that's
don't
right.
even know who they are.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I love it. So what else? As we talk about brokers, because
Yeah.
this is such an area of like I don't think it's controversy, but there's a lot of flux going on right now around brokers. You got the exchange, you've got new
Yeah.
brokers popping up left and right. You've got IFPG and BAI merging. Like there's a
Yep.
ton. There's also the NASA stuff and like some of the new regulations that might be going out maybe in California if they ever
Yep.
get the crap together. Probably won't ever, but they'll eventually it'll probably hit somewhere. Anyway,
Yep.
I won't get political, although I sort of just
Yeah.
did. Tell me, like, what are some of the key things right now that you see changing in the way broker relationships are working? And like, if you were giving advice to a brand to say, look, if you're not going to work with Red Rock, at least do these three things that are going to improve your ability to deepen relationships with the right brokers. What would you advise somebody to do?
Well, I think it's hard to kind of build those relationships, right? Because so many there's so many brands, there's so many brokers. Like, you know, when a broker is new and they're trying to figure out what brands do I pitch, what brands do I work, it's such a huge like fight to take. And so on the flip side, how do you tell a brand, how do you connect with the right brokers? And I think it's, identifying a couple key things is, who would I want to see like rep my brand, like establishing the type of candidate that you're looking for and just kind of trying not to, instead of trying to connect with 20 or 30 or 40 brokers, like three try to find three brokers, just like you would try to find three brands that you love, like industries
Mm.
that you could see yourselves in, and just get to know them, like have a conversation, like don't even talk about the brand, like, just ask them about themselves. Like we miss that so often. We just jump into, hey, let me tell you about my brand. It's amazing. And these are the reasons why, like, hey, how long have you been a consultant? How long have you been in franchising? Do you own any other businesses? Like just to know them. A lot of brokers do other things too. They broker, they are franchisees. Some do, other things, right? They buy businesses. They're entrepreneurs. Like ask them about themselves, ask them about their families, kind of like what you and I did when we first started talking. Like, it's just one of those things where they're people, but they want to have those connections and they want to build those relationships. I mean, that's how you build a brand is having those kind of set relationships so that when the candidate has a conversation with a broker and then they get passed over to the brand or the developer, they know that those two people have talked before. Like they can tell because the relationship has been built. And I know that that's in a perfect world that doesn't always happen. There are people that want to talk to brands, but I hear from brokers all the time. I reached out to this brand and I never got a call back. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why didn't they get a call back? Like, why aren't they answering territory checks? Why does the broker have to like pull the information out of the brand or the developer? I mean, and so that's why when we talk to brokers, we're like, pick the brands that you can build those relationships with. If they have a vested interest in you, they're responsive. That is one thing that we do at Red Rock. Anybody that has ever sent a candidate to us, we literally will update the broker every single step of the way.
Hmm.
Even if it's just a quick check-in. That is something that we built this brand on is, we were brokers. We know exactly how that feels to not have that communication. So we probably over communicate, but you know what? That's our philosophy. So
Yeah.
that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had a broker, consultant, or coach or whoever, whatever they call themselves, tell me how frustrated they are with a brand. And it's a brand that I might know. And I'm like, why? Why are you mad at them? It's like, because I sent them two candidates. So, or I sent them two territory checks, never heard back. I'm not going to rep their brand ever again. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy, like how fast the relationships can turn and burn. Just based upon something as simple as communication. Uh, Blows my mind that there are brands out there that just seem to not care, or they're oblivious to the fact that these aren't just digital leads coming through. These are humans that are
Right.
referring leads to you, and they're trying to, someone put their life on the line. They've got the more second mortgages on their home to
I
fuel
know.
this business. Like this is their big bet, and to have somebody kind of be that disrespectful to that much investment on their end, it kind of cheapens their relationship and burns it.
I agree. Yeah, that's a big thing, and we hear that over and over again. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a problem, but it helps you set apart who is a real partner and player in this space, right? So,
Yeah. I agree. Well, I want to land the plane a little bit, coming back to a thought we shared
yeah,
earlier, if you don't mind, Ari. So,
yeah,
you mentioned, or before we started recording, also during this conversation, a bit about how important it is for franchise brands to not just to think beyond the sale and to be focused on the goal of getting operators into their network who will be successful and strengthen the brand and even generate referrals and contribute to system growth. Can you just maybe share a little bit, like give advice to a franchise brand who might be listening that maybe doesn't quite have that figured out, and maybe walk them through why that's so critical to their long-term success, rather than just like filling seats and finding people with a checkbook and a pulse.
Yeah, I mean, when you're thinking about a brand that has no locations, maybe only a corporate location or maybe just a couple locations, these franchisees and we've been involved in many brands that are trying to get on the map. Like that has been something that we've been brought in to do. Can you help us get these first couple locations? Because it's so crucial. And, kind of what we share and the things that we talk through is all of your franchisees are important
Yeah.
and all of them are going to have an impact on your brand, right? You have to think of it in terms of you're putting these people in different markets throughout the US and maybe beyond the US to represent your brand. Are you going to put an employee in your brand or representing your brand that doesn't fit the bill? No, you're not. You're going to put people in place that can really help the business. These are the first like couple locations and they're going to be helping you with maybe training. They're your ambassadors of your brand. And so if they're not the right kind of fit, if they don't fit the profile, if they're just buying the business just to buy the business and they're never going to launch, and I know this is so cliche, I hate to say this, but their success is your success. And that is so true. I mean, how can you put somebody in place that isn't going to be able to sustain, that's not going to be able to run the system, that's not, and what we tell candidates is this is more than just buying a franchise. You're joining a system as an early kind of, you know, franchisee that's maybe involved in different aspects of the brand as it grows. You're going to be a main validator for this brand. You might be helping with training and developing new franchisees and systems and processes and playbooks as the brand grows and develops, right? So if that's something, and some people love that, you know what I mean? They
Mhm.
thrive on that. And some people are like, yeah, no, that's not for me. I want to be in a system with 200. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's there's nothing wrong with either one of those things, but as well as the first, I'd say 5 to 10 locations are going to get the hand holding and really kind of that one-on-one support. They're going number 11 is going to still get support or number 20 is still going to get support, but it might be from like somebody else as they grow, a trainer or a coach
Yeah.
or somebody that they've brought on. But when the founder is the one that's doing the training and the everything, the guiding and the coaching, there's so many things to share. To me, it's exciting to be one of the first because you help change the trajectory of what the brand can do and you see that success as it grows. But again, not everybody wants to go that route. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that I think I really kind of try to focus on.
No, I appreciate that. And I agree. I agree. The first, I always tell people your first 10 are going to make or break your franchise because they are, like you said, they're the trainers. They're going to set the cultural tone. They're going to
Yep.
set the performance tone. And it's really critical to invest in the right ones. And you get some wrong. You'll get some wrong that seem right and they don't turn out to be right. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm with you on that. Ari, it's been fun having you on here. And I appreciate all your insights about brokers and the relationship and why it's so important and how to build it. And being focused on the right aspect of franchise development, not just awarding franchises willy-nilly. This has all been, I think great. Hopefully reinforcing for many and maybe instructive for some. Can you like if somebody wanted to reach out and say, all right, Ari, I've got
Yeah.
some broker questions, or I want to figure out how to grow my brand, I need some help. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, obviously, seeing you and getting to chat through, franchising. They can go to our website, redrockfrandev.com. They can contact me directly, Ari.O'Brien, Ari.Obrien at redrockfran.com. And yeah, reach out. Share with us your experience. We love talking about franchising. If you're in need of development services, if you're a broker that's looking for a place to land and you want that support and that kind of community, let us know. We're here. We're available. So
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate you. Ari, you've been great. I love the insights and the passion, and thanks for being a guest on the show.
thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.